Hello, my amazing tribe. I'm excited to connect with you through this video. Welcome to another exciting video, where we'll be shedding light on Santa Maria Island. Santa Maria is an island in the eastern group of the Azores archipelago south of the island of São Miguel and the southernmost island in the Azores. The island is known for its white sand beaches, distinctive chimneys, and dry warm weather. Let's now zoom in on history and uncover the hidden gems that lie within. The first records of a group of islands in the Atlantic aside from the legends of Atlantis came from the voyages of Portuguese sailors during the reigns of King Denis and his successor King Afonso IV. These were unsubstantiated accounts and unofficial, until 1427 when navigator Diogo de Silves found the island of Santa Maria, at that time referred to on nautical charts as Ilha dos Lobos or Ilha do Ovo, during his journey to Madeira. Myth tells that on the day of the island's discovery, Danilo Velho Cabral and his crew were celebrating Mass on the feast day of the Virgin Mary, when one of the lookouts spotted the distant island, declaring Santa Maria. This name would become linked permanently to the island. Santa Maria's discovery was attributed to Danilo Velho Cabral in 1432 rather than the pilot Silves, since discoveries were not recognized officially until they declared so by the Portuguese crown, who registered them in Cabral's name. As commander of the voyage, he had already commanded 2 voyages of exploration in. According to legend, Cabral's crew disembarked on a small beach in the northwestern Ponte dos Canestrantes, where he encountered a population of eared seals, proclaiming the beach Praia dos Lobos from the generic Portuguese Lobos marinhos, or monk seals. The captain and his crew explored the island, collecting various examples of the native and unfamiliar plants, as well as canisters of earth and water to give to the Infante as proofs to their discovery. The Infante received these gifts in 1432, and immediately ordered that herds be sent to the island, while he organized a plan for its colonization. In settling the Azores, the crown applied a system that was successful on the island of Madeira in 1425. The new lands would be administered by title grants donatrio to a nobleman and men of confidence donatary captains that would oversee security and colonization, while enforcing the king's law. The master or donatrio for the Azores was the Infante Henry the Navigator in his role as Governor of the Order of Christ and Duke of Viseu, who was granted carte blanche to enforce the king's dominion except to coin money and some judicial authority. The donatrio also had the responsibility of selecting or subcontracting local administrators to represent him, as some historians referred to as captains of the donatary. For his part, Danilo Velho, with the support of de Isabella, was nominated the first captain of the island of Santa Maria and later São Miguel, where he arrived in 1439 with colonists, bringing their families and some cattle. By 1460, the chronicler Diogo Gomes de Sintra identified the island as Ilha de Danilo Velho, with the choicest lands in the hands of their commander. Colonization progressed between 1443 and 1447, principally from settlers from the Portuguese Alentejo and Algarve, who populated the northern coast along the Baía dos Anjos and later in the area of Vila do Porto in the southwest coast. This area would attain the title of Vila do Porto for the nestled anchorage that developed there, and the municipality would also adopt the name by 1470 as indicated on their floral. By the end of the 16th century, Santa Maria was divided into 3 parishes: Nossa Senhora do Açano, Vila do Porto, Santa Barbara and Santo Espirito. The governing classes, the families which controlled the politico-administrative organs of the municipality and parishes, were all intermingled by marriage and class, and after the Iberian Union this concentration increased. Similar to other islands of the archipelago, Santa Maria was a victim of repeated attacks by privators and pirates. In one of the principal engagements, a Castilian carrack with 40 men disembarked in the port of Vila do Porto in 1480, where they were confronted by residents under the command of the captain Major João Soares, nephew of Danilo Velho and heir to the captaincy of Santa Maria and São Miguel, who took to hurl rocks from the cliffs above Calhau do Rupa at the invaders. João Soares was eventually captured by the Spaniards, who took him in irons as a prisoner to Castile. After successive pirate attacks, the population was very hostile to travelers. In February 1493, the traveling Christopher Columbus was greeted harshly by its residents when he and his crew were forced by a storm to land on the island in the Bay dos Anjos on their return from their famous discovery of the New World. Several of his crew were captured, and complex negotiations were undertaken to liberate them. Thankful for their liberation, a mass was celebrated by him and his party in the old chapel before he returned to Spain. Although relatively far from the routes used by ships traveling to India, the island was repeatedly attacked by French pirates. 1553, the island assaulted by French troops. 1576, the English Azores voyage of 1589 and Moors 1616 and 1675. By the 17th century, a series of fortifications were constructed along the coast to defend the populace from these attacks, including the fort of Sobres Vila do Porto and the ruined fort of São João Batista in Praia Formosa. When the 1580 crisis of succession ushered in the Iberian Union in Portugal, the island initially supported Antonio of Croto, but with pressure from Philip I of Spain in the Azores, Antonio declined even to disembark in Santa Maria. During this period, the island came to depend on the Governor-General of the Azores. After the Portuguese Restoration War 1640, the news was greeted with celebrations and excesses by the Captain Major Bas de Souza. During the Portuguese Civil War, the citizens supported the rights of Maria I to the throne of Portugal, which differed immensely from the Governor-General of the Azores on the island of São Miguel, who supported Miguel. The Captain Major even attempted to raise arms from Terceira, insofar as sending a carrack to collect the weapons. In the interim, the São Miguel administration changed sides in the conflict. By the following year, several Morenses joined the expeditionary force, disembarking on the continent along Arnesa de Pampelido beach near Mindelo, Vila do Conde, during one of the crucial battles of the Civil War. During World War II, the United States used Santa Maria Airport, Azores as a base. On 8 February 1989, an American chartered Boeing 707 of Independent Air Flight 1851 crashed at Pico Alto, killing all 137 passengers and 7 members of the crew. There was confusion between tower and pilots as to the appropriate altitude during their approach. Our focus now turns to physical geography, an important aspect of our discussion. The island is located in the southeast corner of the Azores archipelago, 100 kilometers south of São Miguel, and 600 kilometers from the island of Flores, the westernmost island in the archipelago. The island of Santa Maria is oblong and measures 97.4 km, extending above sea level near Piquinhos. Due to the impermeability of the soils, this region is arid with fewer leafy plants or grasses. To the north and south, the principal points of colonization occurred Anjos and Vila do Porto, respectively, and 65% of the current population resides in this region, which includes the parishes of Vila do Porto, São Pedro and Almagueira. Airport lands represent the largest use of the space, as the Santa Maria Airport is located along the western coast, taking advantage of the plain and lack of natural obstacles. River valleys along the north and south divide many of the communities. The eastern one-third of the island is composed of eroded hills and mountains, covered by areas of thick vegetation, pasture lands and river valleys. The tallest points on the island, Pico Alto, Santa Maria, below current sea levels. These conditions allowed the formation of a fine clay, used later to support the pottery industry and export market, primarily to Vila Franca do Campo and Lago on São Miguel, to be used as raw commodity for their traditional potteries. In Barreiro do Fanica, the Regional Assembly decreed a protected plain of this arid soil in order to protect and preserve its characteristics. Generally, the island coast is ringed by steep cliffs, finding their prominence in the area of Roca Alta 340 m. In addition, several protected bays along the coast shelter white sand beaches or are guarded by many rocky islets. These include the villages of São Lourenço and its islet, Praia Formosa and its long sandy beaches, or the craggy islet of Lagone has in the north coast. Forestry, covering about 19 hectares, is confined to high-density cryptomeria trees planted along the slopes of Pico Alto, and uncapped parcels of wild plants dominated by mock orange Pittosporum undulatum, common juniper Juniperus communis, and Laurel Laurus azorica. In this section, we'll be peeling back the layers of ecoregions and protected areas to reveal its true essence. Several natural landscapes have been preserved or designated points of natural interest by the regional government in order to foster conservation and support endemic flora and fauna species, as well as provide communal forms of recreation and nature interpretation. On 7 November 2008, the regional government legislated the creation under Regional Legislative Decree E of the Parque Natural da Ilha de Santa Maria Nature Park of the island of Santa Maria in order to encapsulate and administer the various territorial units into one scheme that includes 13 protected areas. In addition, the Dirico Regional dos Recursos Florestais Regional Directorate for Forest Resources, which is responsible for the administration of forest resources and parks on the island, maintains and promotes the island's forest reserves. Much like other islands of the Azores, there are many pedestrian walking trails and hiking circuits throughout the island. The hiking circuits allow the user to experience a range of diverse ecosystems and protected areas of the island that are not easily accessible to most tourists. In the next portion, we'll be immersing ourselves in the realm of climate and examining its broader implications. Santa Maria has a mild Mediterranean climate. The island, as well as the whole archipelago, has an extremely moderate subtropical climate due to its location in the Atlantic Ocean influenced by the Gulf Stream. In the summer it is generally dry and warm. In winter, temperatures remain very mild. The bulk of the year's precipitation falls in this season, though Santa Maria is much drier than the rest of the islands, having less than half the precipitation of the more westerly Flores Island. Temperatures average 18.5 C in the coast and around Convert in the easterly mountains. The sunny island of the Azores, as its nickname suggests, receives on average around 2,200 hours of sunshine, which is a considerable amount for the relatively dull archipelago it is in, though not a lot when compared to other places at the same latitude like the Algarve in mainland Portugal. The mountain range east of the island and the northeast coast are much more humid, reaching in some locations values as high as 1,800 millimeters of precipitation per year. The island received a direct hit from Hurricane Gordon in the early hours of August 20, 2012, with winds of 120 gusting to 170. Gordon was a Category 2 hurricane shortly before landfall. As a result, extensive preparations were made and there were no deaths and damage was limited to vegetation. The same tropical cyclone also passed previously in 2006, crossing the Azores on September 1920 as a Category 1 hurricane, producing a wind gust of 82 km on Santa Maria Island. Measurements have been taken at the Santa Maria airport since, initially managed by British or US Air Forces serving there. Later, another meteorological station was placed in the recreational forest reserve of Fontinhas. An alternative source with more recent averages gives different values. As we venture forward, let's take a closer look at human geography and its impact on our understanding. Due to the varying geomorphology, the population built homes dispersed throughout the island, forming small nuclei along zones with access to potable water in the west and in the valleys in the east. Traditional homes were constructed from the ubiquitous black volcanic rock, painted white, with doors and windows accented in the available colors of the day. The chimneys of these homes are unique since, heavily influenced by styles from the Alentejo and Algarve, these were ornate or simple, but generally different from house to house. Politically, the island is one municipality, Vila do Porto, with a population of 5,578 inhabitants 2001, divided into 5 parishes. Vila do Porto includes 1/3 of the island, covering the western plain, the airport and local communities such as Años and Santana, encompassing 2,997 of the island's citizens. São Pedro, the northern parish. It includes the communities of Fitima, Paul and Pilar, 841 inhabitants, 2001 Almaguira, the southern dry zone and transitional space that includes Praia Formosa and parts of the mountainous areas of Montero and Bom Despacho, 537 inhabitants, 2001 Santo Espirito, the eastern corner covering Maia, Gliria and Fontinhas, 723 inhabitants, 2001 Santa Barbara, the northern and eastern parish that includes Lobonhas, Norte and the Solorino, 480 inhabitants, 2001. In the upcoming section, we'll be shining a light on economy. The island's economy passed through much of the cyclical evolution associated with the Azores. Initially, the economy was based on the production of wheat and woad until the 16th century, evolving slowly to a subsistence economy based on cereal crops. This was also a period of pottery production and export of the fine red clay to artisans on São Miguel for the production of the same. Generally isolated from the traffic between the New World and Europe, the island depended heavily on agriculture until the 20th century, when the US military established the airport in Gingel. It became an international link after 1944, taking on a central position in transatlantic air traffic during the mid-20th century. The island became dependent, almost absolutely, on the airport, first, during the phase of construction when Maurienses were involved in the construction or support, and later when air traffic control in the North Atlantic Corridor was based in Santa Maria FIRO Seneca de Santa Maria. For many decades, the airport at Santa Maria was the gateway to and from the Azores until the construction or renovation of smaller fields on other islands. Changing developments in the aviation industry, primarily of long-range airliners, reduced the importance of Santa Maria as a transatlantic stop, and other airports such as those in Lage, Horta and Ponta Delgada, better equipped and logistically advanced, diminished the importance of activities on Santa Maria. The European Space Agency ESA established a satellite tracking station at the end of the 20th century, rekindling the debate on the island's dependency on the aviation sector. Similarly, in 2012, a proposal by EDISOFT to install a Galileo sensor station GSS station in Santa Maria was successful. The Mauriense station won out over other sites in Madeira and the Canary Islands. This continued the island's importance as a technological and communications hub in the Atlantic, following the installation of the Rede Atlântica de Geodinâmicas e Espaciais Atlantic network of dynamic and spatial stations VLBI antenna, on the heels of the protocol signed on 29 April 2010 between the Secretary Regional dos Ciência, Tecnologia e Equipamentos Regional Secretary for Science, Technology and Equipment and the Diretor-Geral do Instituto Geográfico Nacional de Espanha, Director General of the National Geographic Institute of Spain. In comparison with the other islands, the raising of cattle and milk production never attained the same level of development. Agriculture is still the predominant activity in the municipality, occupying 47.6% of the land. This activity is usually confined to small ventures involving foraging plants, small pastures and permanent holdings. There are several commercial species of fish in the waters around Santa Maria, such as sheepshead, vejas, red snapper, grouper, wrasse, mackerel, anchovies, needlefish and frigate tuna. Secondary industries are dominated by civil construction, sawmills, tile and block factories, and artisan handicraft manufacture. As with the rest of the Azores, tourism makes up an important tertiary sector associated with nautical activities such as sailing, windsurfing, water skiing, sport fishing, tuna, swordfish, and grouper and scuba diving, beach activities, pedestrian hiking, and rabbit hunting. The villages of Solorino, Praia Formosa, Maia and Años are known as summer tourist centers, attracting visitors to their beaches, natural pools, summer homes, and festivals. The spotlight now falls on transportation as we delve deeper into its details. Direct flights to the continent Lisbon are provided primarily by Azores Airlines out of Santa Maria Airport located close to Vila do Porto. The airport also provides some direct connections to the rest of the archipelago through SATA Azores, an inter-island ferry owned by Azorean maritime transport operator Atlantica Line, services Santa Maria weekly during the summer. Similarly, inaugurated in 2007, the marina in Vila do Porto allows access to the island throughout the year. Bus and taxi service is provided throughout the island. In this section, we'll be peeling back the layers of power supply to reveal its true essence. The Santa Maria Island Power Station is close to the airport and uses diesel generators 3x 1.5 MW MAN and 2x Caterpillar 3516 1.5 MW, 1x Caterpillar 0.8 MW. The MAN generators run on heavy fuel, while the Caterpillars use petroleum distillate. There is a Caterpillar 3408 300 diesel for Black Start. The island also has access to 5x 1.5 MW wind turbines, which are limited to 50% peak demand due to frequency control concerns. Wind provides 17% of power sent out over the year. The Power Authority is installing a 70 flywheel storage system taken from another island to increase wind proportion to deal with frequency excursions. With our curiosity piqued, let's embark on a dedicated exploration of architecture and its fascinating intricacies. There are many examples: public buildings, churches and auxiliary structures, military constructions of Santa Maria's cultural heritage that have been remodeled, conserved and preserved for their important historicultural value. Since Santa Maria was the first island to be colonized, there are older examples of these buildings and structures that have lasted longer due to no historical volcanism and fewer earthquakes. As we enter this new phase, let's uncover the impact of festivities on our broader topic. Marian's culture, much like the rest of the Azores, is heavily influenced by traditional religious festivals and feasts. In particular, the Festival of the Divine Holy Spirit, closely tied to the 14th Queen Elizabeth of Portugal, was implanted during the island's colonization by the Order of Christ and Franciscan friars and continues to mark the island's calendars. These festivals include a religious ceremony and the crowning of one or more children with a silver-plated crown adorned with the symbols of the Holy Spirit, and culminates with a grand feast on 7th Sunday following Pentecost. On the occasion of these feasts, a traditional soup of bread soaked in a meat broth is distributed freely at the Irmandades and Imperios across the island. In addition to parochial celebrations associated with local saints, the island celebrates a festival in honor of the Lord Holy Christ of the Miracles. On 15 August each year, the municipality also celebrates a festival in honor of Nossa Senhora do Arsenal, Our Lady of the Assumption, the patron saint of Vila do Porto. During the last week of August, Praia Formosa is home to a world music festival, Mar de Agosto August Tide Festival. The beach community is regularly overrun with tourists and local visitors who travel to the island to listen to world music acts, which in the past have included John Lee Hooker Jr., Scatolites, Angelico Keo, Rue Veloso and Gentlemen. Annual festivities come to a private close with the Festival of the Confraria dos Escravos do Cadinha in Aneus, at the beginning of September. A secular celebration, it is a private, fraternal, social and cultural event that celebrates the defense of Santa Maria and in particular Aneus from pirate attacks, organized by the Centro Cultural Cristo Colombo. Let's now shift gears and explore tradition through a critical lens, uncovering its strengths and weaknesses. The handicraft industry in Santa Maria is centered on pottery, ceramics and wool sweaters, ornate sheets, blankets, towels and other embroidery. Homespun garments include coarse woolen jerseys, embroidered linen shirts, embroidered women's jackets and Esteman suits. Similarly, straw hats, baskets and various other objects traditionally made from wood, fish scales, corn flask and metal are sold as souvenirs. These activities have been organized by the Santa Maria Handicrafts Cooperative, which also promotes other unique Marians products, bread, sweets, pastry making and weaving. Traditional music and folk dancing are heavily influenced by the styles of the Bairas and Alentejo regions. Several folk groups have developed on the island that reproduce the clothing styles, the music and traditional dance. Due to factors such as the climate and insular environment, the style of music, songs, dance and instruments used such as the viola da arame. Many of the dances have curious names, such as Pusinho Dogara the Heron's Foot Dance, Mo do Moinhodamo the style of handmill, Alfine the Pin, Ballo the Balloon, and Moros Moors. The Museo Etnográfico de Santo Espirito Ethnographic Museum of Santo Espirito relates aspects of the history and culture of the island. Apart from the sopas do impura soups traditionally served during Pentecost, Santa Maria has a rich gastronomic history that includes sopa de nibos, a turnip soup, bolo de panela, a pancake, xoila, a thick meat stew in a traditional ceramic pot, molho de fígado, a liver stewsus, sopa de pies, fish soup, and caldeira de pies, a mixture of fish or seafood in broth and a bread. Sweet desserts, such as suspiros meringues, melendres honey cakes, biscoitos encanelados, tigladas a pudding, biscoitos de orelha, biscoitos brancos, biscoitos de aguardente and cavacas sugar-coated biscuits, are also popular. Similarly, the wines of the Solorano foothills, as well as other wines and sweet liqueurs, have been commercialized. These include Vinho Abafadinho and Vinho Abafado, both fortified wine liqueurs, Liquor de Amara mulberry liqueur, Liquor de Leet milk liqueur and aguardente, which are made using traditional techniques and favored following a dinner. With the foundation laid, let's embark on a journey into tourism. Tourists generally favor the white sand beaches and rock pools in the communities of Años, Vila do Porto, Praia Formosa, Almagraira, Maia Santo Espirito and Solorano Santa Barbara. Praia Formosa, in particular, is known on the island for its white sand beach that stretches across the bay. In the remaining locales, the original natural rock pools have been replaced by concrete pools with seawater access. In the upcoming section, we'll be dissecting notable people and exploring its intricate connections to our topic. João Soares de Souza 1493 in Vila do Porto 1571, the third dignitary captain of Santa Maria Espo Pires de Alpoim September 14, 2023, a nobleman and notary of government in the Azores Islands. Amador Vaz de Alpoim, a nobleman, conquistador, colonizer and explorer of South America. Margarida Cabral de Melo, a noble lady, wife of Amador Vaz de Alpoim. I appreciate your time and I'm grateful for every like, comment, and share.